Seems like chat is working. Mic is working, music is coming correctly. Okay, let's get started. So, what's up, everyone? First of all, happy Independence Day in advance to all my Indian friends, and welcome everyone. So, in this stream, I'm going to walk you through setting up a development workflow for your React app within Docker containers for development and production environment. And yeah, so to get started, let's open up our favorite terminal and let's go to open source directory. O means just cd into open source, something like that. Yeah, so we don't need to worry about that. Cc means alias. Cc means just a clear, right? I might do sometimes control K, which in your case should work as well. It just clears the terminal, right? If I do GST, that means it is git status only. So if I do git status and GST, both are same things. If I do GAA, that is nothing but git add all. GAA. I'm telling you all this because I use this quite often. That's why. Hey, hi Richard. So today we are going to talk about like setting up a React app for the Docker environment. Please reduce background music. Yeah, sure. Is it better? Let me know if there is any problem with the audio or anything. So I will set up things quickly. I've reduced it. Let me know if you still find it disturbing. That's better. Yeah, cool. Okay, so I was just walking, I'm just telling all these shortcuts, aliases I used, right? So in this stream, I'll be using it quite often, so it's better to tell. So GST means nothing but git status. GAA means just nothing but git add all. CC means clear, right? And that's it. I don't think so. And meanwhile, when we do all this stuff, so we'll check that. So, yesterday I created this Docker React project. Let's remove, but just for practicing this stuff, just remove it and we'll start from scratch. So now since we don't have this folder, is this font good, Richard? Or shall I increase the size a little bit? Okay, so let me know. So let's scaffold one React app, npx create React app, and let's call it Docker React only. So it will just install or scaffold a React application. That's pretty basic. And in this stream, we are not going to talk much about increase size. Yes, sure. I've increased it a little bit already. Let me know if it is fine. Now. Let it scaffold the React application. From last few days, I was trying to get all this information what we use in our day-to-day life, right? While using the Docker, so I'll try to showcase all the things which are possible or which we need actually in our day-to-day life. That I'll try to explain and use here and showcase some tips and tricks around it as well. So hopefully it will be helpful. Watching on phone still very small. Oh, Let me increase a little bit. Now it's too huge. Is it better? I've increased it again. Let me know if you need to increase that font size again. So since this Docker React project is created, let's go inside this Docker React project. Better. Okay, cool. So as you can see here, we have created this React application. In my day-to-day life, I use Vim only. So you can use any editor you want. So like, but in this thing, I'll be using Npm. So you don't need to use it at all, right? So don't get overwhelmed or something like with this. People used to like more talk about that. So we don't want to focus on that thing. We want to focus on our project. Okay. So our React project is there, right? So let's open package.json file and let's search scripts here. So as you can see here, we have some scripts to run our project. So let's start npm run start just to see that like this project is running or not. So as you can see, let me open it here. This React project is started, and if I go to terminal, you can see that it is running by default on port 3000, right? So now to create a Docker, right? Docker containers. I'll not go deep like in telling or explaining the Docker and images one. I think it's fairly easy. You might know already, right? So I'll focus on the part where we want to explore things, learn things, right? So now what happens is whenever we want to build a container, right? So there we need to create images, right? Those images have all the dependencies, our source code and everything which is needed to run our application, right? So that we need to create right now. And if we go to docker.com, this is the repository for all the public images, right? So and React uses Node to run on it, right? So that's why what we will do is we'll search for Node image if there is any, and obviously there will be. So you can see it is an official image, Node image. So what happens is this image will have everything, or this image will have Node installed already here, right? But this image will be bare image. So what do I mean by like bare image? So bare image means it will not have anything other than Node, right? And as I told you better previously that we need all our application code and everything inside that image to create the containers, right? So what we will do is the idea here is take some of the officially built images, right? Those bare images, we add some configurations there and create our own image, right? And that maybe we can just uh, put in our repository, and then private repository or public as well. If it is open source project, we can publish it as public as well. So those images we can use to create containers, right? This is the idea. Now let's quickly check this Docker. Okay, by the way, if you have not installed Docker, so just go to Docker documentation. It's quite simple. The best way to install is what I prefer in most of the cases. Just install this Docker desktop application for your operating system, and in 99.99% of the cases, so everything should be fine for you. So this Docker is running now. Let's keep it running. Yeah. So it's setting up this Docker. Now let's back to the node image. So now you can see here there are multiple tags available, supported tags. There are Alpine, Buster. Alpine actually I think uses send, and on top of that it adds this node environment, and Buster uses Ubuntu, I believe. I'm not sure, but I think it is like that. So, and you can see here there should be a latest tag as well. Latest tag means it's just a version, right? These are all the versions of this node which we can install while scaffolding this project. So latest is the tag where we will have all the the latest version of the node. Now, how to pull it inside our project, right? So let's go to our terminal and open our editor, any editor, and let's create a file called Docker file. Right? At the bottom, you can see my cursor here. I'm creating a Docker file. Now, this Docker file will be actually used to build images, and that image actually will be used to run the containers. I hope you understand the link, right? Now, to pull this image from the Docker Hub, we will use from tag, and then we'll use node, right? And then after that, we can just use, after that colon, we can use any version like 12, 14, 15, 16, whatever it is. And if you want to use latest, so we can use latest as well. And latest is by default. I'll give you one good advice here. So never use latest tag, okay? Because what happens is it's not relevant at all. So whenever we are going to build those images, we are not sure which version you are using. So that's why it's not a good practice to use latest tag anytime. Just use a specific version for your project. That way you have more control on it. So, but for this demo, I'm not more focused on any version. Any version is fine for me right now. So I'll just use the latest version, right? Just one tip here: never use latest tag. That's it. Now, while creating this container, we want our code should be present in some of the directory or somewhere in the code in that container, right? So let's define a working directory, work dir. I don't know how it is called, work dir or work dir. I don't know, but work dir dir we can set, and I always set it to code. It's actually not we can set it to anything, right? We can set it to app. Most people use app, most people use web as well, right? So but I personally use code. It's always a good practice to have one same structure kind of thing, so that whenever you go inside a container, I'll show you that as well, how we can go inside the container and check things. So it's always good that we have this working directory, and what happens is any command like copy command, run command, everything whatever we run, it will run inside this command. So this will be our default directory where everything will be running. So it's arbitrary, it's not required to add here, but it's a good practice to add it, so that's why we will add it here. So all our code will reside inside this code folder. Now what we will do is, let's do it this way. We will copy our package.json file inside this code directory. Now I'll give you one cool hint here. So whenever you are dealing with Docker, right? So whatever you see on the left side, that is our machine. Whatever you see on the right side, that is Docker container, right? So on the left side, you can see that package.json. And if I show you quickly, so let's okay. You see here we have this package.json, right? So this package.json we are copying inside this container. What do I mean by dot? I can because we have set that working directory, so it will always start from that directory, and we want to copy there itself. That's why we are just giving dot, or else we can just use package.json as well. Give the complete name, and maybe if you want to rename it, so we can do that as well. So, but for simplicity, let's add this. Now, after that, we need to install our packages, right? So let's do the same for log file as well, right? Both the files will copy inside a container inside a code directory /code. Then we'll run npm install, right? So once we do npm install, it will install all the dependencies which are required. Let me know if you have any questions in between, so I'll check those things. Yeah, I'm actually watching these chats as well. So yeah, so please ask. So where we were, okay. So we have copied these two files, package.json and package.log inside the container, inside the /code directory. We ran npm install now, right? So it will create that node model folder. I think it's good. I like this notebook. Now we'll do npm install. Once that npm install is done, then we will be copying all of our source code which is inside this directory. That's why we are putting it dot here. And then inside this /code directory, which is by default, right? So that's why we will just put dot there as well, right? So now you might think that, okay, Bhushan, we copied this two files, we did npm install, and then after that, we are again copying all the source code there inside the container. So why not just copy all the files and then do npm install, like something like this? If I do something like this, why not do it like this? So let me give you one idea. So whenever this build command will be running, right? So all these lines will be act as a step, okay? And to optimize things, what Docker does is it caches each layer, each step, right? So for example, imagine uh, we downloaded this image from the Docker Hub, right? And then we created this working directory, right? And then we copied all the source code inside this Docker container. And because this source folder is always we are going to change, right? So Docker will always run npm install command here, and I'll show you that quickly when we go to and build the containers. So it's a little bit optimization technique. I'll explain you better when we see the actual when we build it images, right? So once we copy that images, copy that source code into the container, then we will run a command npm run start, right? Now what is what is the difference between run and command? Okay, you might think that, and it's obviously a good question. So whenever we are running the run command works or executes when we are actually building the image, right? And once the images are built, and whenever we are running the container, we are just starting the container. At that moment, this command will be run. CMD will be running. So that is the basic difference here. And whenever we have any space separated values, so we can just simply put it as an array. You can see it, it's quite easy to understand, right? And basically this is all what we need to create our image, right? and then from that image we can just run this container. So let's close this. Let's commit these files, right? So you can see here this Docker file is committed, right? We only have those changes. Now let's build the image, right? And how we will build the image. To build the image, we just need to create run docker build and dot is a context, but for now let's think of it as a directory where we have this docker file. Just now we created that docker file, right, with the capital D. So that like let's just for just now, let's just think of it as a directory where we have this docker file. And if I click enter, so you can see it started building this image, right? And you can see here it started pulling the image from the docker hub. You can see I probably did these things with code directory stuff previously as well. That's why it is coming from cat. It copied the package log, it copied the package.json, then it's running the npm install, and you can see this is the time consuming thing, right? So 22 seconds already passed, 25, 26. You can see here. Let it finish. 39, 50. It's taking a little bit time. I always get confused with like how to match up things in Docker. So I found a really cool trick. Whatever is on left side, that is my machine. Whatever is on the right side is Docker containers. And that actually will be really useful when we see the other commands and as we go forward. Now you see that npm run install is completed. 5 out of 6 was completed, and then now it's starting to copy this source code inside this docker container, and now all these steps are completed, right? And now if I run this command again, you will see it completed within just few seconds. It happened quite fastly, right? So now why it happened quite fastly? Because all these steps were cached actually, right? So imagine uh, like package.json or package.log, we don't change often. So that's why whenever we have this package.log or package.json not changed, so it will pull from the cache, right? And because these two files are not changed, obviously it will not run this npm install, because this is again the same, right? And since we are going to always update source code here, so this will be running like this will be always running and copying these things into the container. And in this case we just ran it quickly, so that's why it is coming from cache, because we don't have any changes, which is all good, right? So I hope you understand like why we put that copy commands, these two commands here at the above. It is just an optimization technique, and people just Google creating the Docker images, but they don't understand like what is the meaning of it. And I hope I tried to convey that like how and why it is used. Okay, so since we have this image, now how I can find that image? I can just do Docker image ls for list, and if I do it, so you can see here a minute ago I created this image, and obviously this doesn't have any name or tag. So why not let's delete this image, Docker rmi remove image, and then the id, right? So now this image is deleted, uh, and now if I do Docker image ls, so you can see that image is gone now. Probably this also I have to delete. Docker rmi, it will create a problem in future when we plan things, because I was yesterday night I was case example. So let me quickly remove those as well. For RMI, that's it. So if I do docker image ls again, you see that we don't have anything there. Now, how can we create an image with the tag, right? So if you see here, Docker Hub, we have different tags, right? 18, Alpine, and something like that. So we can do the same thing. Like what we can do is we can do Docker build -t is for tag, right? And then we can specify any name here. So for example, for this demo, let's put it React image. And what happened? Oh, I forgot the context. So at the end, dot means the context, right? So that context will be there. And now it will try to create this image, and it quickly created one. Let's do Docker image ls, and now you can see that we have this React image, right, which we created just now with the latest tag, right? And this is the ID. Now every time we have to access this image, so we can access it with the name, so that is a little bit convenience to type, right? I don't have to go and do Docker image ls and find this ID and copy that and then paste it there, so it will be a little bit easier. So now, since you already have this Docker image build, right? So now how can we create a container? Remember the steps were get the bare image, add your stuff, create new image which you can use in your development environment or production environment, then create containers using that image, right? So to create a container, what we can do is we can run docker run command, right? And let's give this container a name, right? Hyphen name. What happens is if we don't provide any name there, so Docker will give any arbitrary name, like it will generate random name there. And since I don't want to generate any random name, I want to access it with the name. So why not give it? So React app, and how you will create a container using React image. I hope this is clear, right? Docker run. Okay, you give that container React app name and create this container using React image. That's it. So let's run it, and now you can see this Docker container is actually running. So now previously I showed you, right? So whenever last time when we did npm run install, it started the project on port 3000, right? Now in this case you can see the same output. Will it be accessible? So let's go and check in the browser, and if I refresh, you see not the things are still open, right? Why is that? So now there is one important concept here. So whenever we create the Docker containers can access outside world. And to prove you that, like whenever we did npm install, right, it can access the internet, it can access the outer network, right, outside of the container. It accessed the internet and we did that npm install, right? But whenever any request or anything, any like the outer world in the sense that my operating system or any other things which is trying to access this container, this is not allowed, right? So this is not allowed. So how can we allow it to listen on this port or this stuff? So to do that, what we will do is we will stop this container. It's not stopping. Stop it with this dashboard. Really good. Okay, I did control C, it was not stopping, so let's push it. Now see which containers are running, right? What we can do is we can check, we can run docker ps command. It will show you all the running containers, right? And if you do docker ps hyphen a, right now we have just deleted that and it has removed everything, so that's why it is not showing, but we'll use this command and it is really helpful. Whatever commands I'm running now, I have jotted it down and thought about it for like quite a few days. All these commands, whatever I'm using right now, will be useful in your day-to-day life. So remember those, try to use them, yeah, so that you will not forget. So Docker PS gives you all the running containers information, what is going on inside this Docker, right? So now let's one cool tip. So whenever we want to access the older commands, right? So we used to do like up arrow and all this stuff, right? Which is not handy. We have to click 1,000 times and that, check that command, right? So which is not good. So what you can do is you can do command R. It puts you in the search mode. The UI might be different for you. I have installed Exec, that's why it is looking like this. So I can just do docker run, and now it's fuzzy searching all this stuff, right, for me. And now I can use this command, right? And then I can just do enter and then I can run that command. And obviously I don't want to run it right now. I want to put some flags there. So for example, I want to access this 3000 port running inside the container from the outside, right? If it is not clear, please just say something in the chat, right? That way I can just see it and I'll try to explain it, right? And if everything is good, so yeah, good. So now I told you before, whatever is in on the left side, that is our machine. Whatever is on the right side, that is Docker. So let's put hyphen p. Hyphen p is port, right? That is a flag we are adding. And let's do 4000. 4000 is my machine port, and bind it to 3000 port, which is running inside this Docker container. So essentially what we're saying is, whenever we send any request to 4000 port from the outside world, just pass it to Docker container and pass it to the 3000 port, right? So now if I run this command, it did the same thing. It started the current it's the npm run start command, and now you see it is still running on port 3000, but to access this we have to actually use 4000 port. And now, wow, you can see that React project started. So now what we are doing is, from the port 4000 port, we are just passing this what this request, this traffic, we are passing it, and actually this is actually ported to port 3000, which is running inside, right? Now obviously when we run that container, it's not good to, like, my terminal is actually blocked, right? So I can obviously create new tabs like here I can do, but let's put it inside, put this process in a background, right? And to do that, I don't know why it's not stopping here. Let's use Docker and just remove it. With Control C, it's not stopping. That is the Docker. Docker. I have to do it forcefully. Now how we can do it? So this is also a good learning. So now you see, if I do docker ps, this container is actually running, which we gave the name React, right? It is using React image. This is the container ID. and it is passing. So whatever the local ports are, that it is creating a TCP connection and forwarding that 4,000 traffic to 3,000 inside the container. So now let's copy this and let's stop this container. Right now, if I go there, that container is stopped. I control C. Okay, next time if I have this problem, I will try that control C because I actually stopped it out, so I cannot do that. Now if I do docker ps, you see that it's gone. But now if I do docker ps -a, you can still see this container is already gone, right? So whenever we want to stop any container or remove that container, right? We want to first stop it, like what we did, docker stop, and then this container ID, right? Now after that we need to kill it. So docker kill, and then again that container ID. And now if I do it, cannot run container, it's not running. Okay, it's not running, so it's already there. And then docker rm this container ID to delete it. And if I do now, rm means remove, nothing else, right? And -a, everything is gone, right? So now we are able to send traffic from outside world to the container. Now let's put it in this one, and let's put a -d flag. So what is the meaning of -d? -d means detached mode, right? So whenever we run any command and put -d, so it will go inside the background. That's it, right? So if I run it now, you can see I can still use the terminal, and all these processes are happening outside or in the background. If I go to the browser and refresh this page, you can still see that. So which is good. So now let's do one thing. Let's try and open our React project and go to app.js, and maybe let's create this line. Docker plus node is, they're just using it to run the application, right? And if I save it and go to the browser, if I refresh it, you can see nothing is updating, right? So now we can update it. So remember, if I do docker ps, right, we used this image to run this container, right? And what happens is this image we actually built before editing that app.js, correct? Now what happens is this image is actually, this image doesn't have the latest code what we have right now, whatever we changed, right? And to access this, we need to go inside the container, and to check this actually if it is the real case, we need to go inside the docker container, right? So how we can go inside the docker container? So to go inside the docker container, we can do docker exec command, right? Exec means executable, pretty easy, right? And then put -it. It is for interactive mode, right? And then using this interactive mode, which container you want to connect to, and here it comes handy, right? We gave that React-app name to that container, right? So that we can access here. And after that, what command we want to run, right? So I want to run a bash command. So bash command will put me into the CLI mode, and it will show me all the directories and all this stuff, right? So if I hit enter, you can see /code directory is there. If I do ls-la, so you can see all these files are copied here, right? You can see the docker file, node modules package, everything we copied, right? And now you can also think, is it really needed? This docker file, is it needed inside this container? No. Is this git directories and git ignore is needed? No. And even when we copy this node module folder, right, we did copy dot dot, right? So we're actually copying all the node module folders from our directory, our machine inside this container. And this can be huge actually, right? And this is not needed because we are already doing npm install before that, right? So I hope you understood like where I'm coming at. So now uh, to uh, to mitigate this problem, let's exit out this command, this interactive shell, right? And let's create another file called docker ignore, right? It is basically the same concept, ditto concept as git ignore, right? And here we will put some directories, like for example git directory. Let's put git ignore. We don't need docker file, right? We not even need that node modules. And here this node module is from the copy command, right? Because anyways inside the container we are using npm install, so it's not needed there. And maybe in future we'll have env variables, right? So we'll create a .env file there, so that is also not needed inside the container. And I think that's it for now, right? I think that's it for now. So what we can do is let's do docker ps. I hope you guys are like understanding all this stuff, right? Quickly. uh, Now I'll speed a little bit because we have understood the core concepts, and now we can move forward with the difficult part or interesting part, right? So Docker PS will do now. We'll show all the running containers. Let's stop it. React. Let's stop and kill is same only. But mostly what I do is I have to kill or stop that image container and then remove that image, right? I have to do docker rm and then react app. So what I usually do is in day-to-day life, it's a quick hack or pro tip, I would say, that instead of killing the container, directly use docker rm react app, the container name, and put -f. So it will automatically kill the container and it will remove that image as well, remove that container as well. So it's a quick little hack or tip which I use, right? So that you can also do. So let's do that. And right now, obviously, it is not there. So do docker ps. We don't have anything, which is good. Now let's go and create this this image, rebuild this image, right? So let's rebuild this image. And this is there, right? And then after that let's run it, run with detached mode, right? Now I can see the docker ps is there. Music is good, music is good. Can just refresh it. This app is working, and now you can see, now I ran this, right? I built that new image, and since we edited this link like inside the code, so this new image has the latest code, right? And obviously it is not good way to develop anything, yeah, but luckily we have a solution for that. We'll talk about that in a minute, right? So this thing is updated, and if I go inside this container and let's do vim source src/app.js. Okay, this docker container doesn't have vim, so let's cat it. Cat is a code, so it should have. Okay, now you can see this container has this code updated, and that's why it is appearing here. Now obviously this is not a good way to develop things. I have to always like rebuild the image, create the containers again, and which is not good. And I forgot to show you, if we do ls-la, so you can see we have, okay, we need this docker ignore as well, should be added in the docker. But you can see that we don't have anything unrelated to our code apart from this docker image, obviously. So I'll add that as well in the git ignore, docker ignore file. So yep, let's exit this out and let's focus on this issue where we are, like, we want it to be instantly updated, right? We don't want it to be updating slowly. So let's do okay, let's stop actually. Okay, let me do one thing first. Let's go to docker ignore, and here we'll add this docker ignore word is out. So docker ignore is also added. So next time when we build the command, build the image, it will not be there. Let's do our small little tick, rm react app with -f flag. So if we do it this way, docker ps -a, nothing is there. The container itself is removed and killed. And if I go here, refresh, nothing is happening there. Now we want instant updates, right? How we can do that? And luckily we have solution for that, and that solution is volumes. Mount binding these volumes. Now volume, you can think of it as a hard disk or something in a simple layman term, right? So how we can create this volumes? So if I the run command, we go to the run command and let's do git mode, and now I'll put another flag -v, right? -v, and that -v stands for volume, right? Now I want to bind whatever is always changing in my code that I'll be changing while I'm doing the development. And remember that same thing, whatever is on left side, that is my machine, whatever is on the right side, that is docker container. So if I put the colon, and obviously I know that inside a code directory I have source directory, right, on the right side, which I want it to be updated always, right? Now on the left side we need to pass this source directory, right? So inside the source directory only we are going to develop all this stuff. So if I do / and then source, right? So that is the current directory / source. But here is a small little catch. So this / this relative path doesn't work here, right? So if you are on Windows machine, so you can do %cd% and then /source, right? Or if you're on Linux, then you need to do curly braces pwd, which is present working directory, right? That also you can do. Or since I'm on Mac, so I can do pwd like this, right? This actually I checked yesterday my different machines, so I was finding it difficult, so I found this thing, so it might help. That's why I mentioned. So now this is the command. Whatever is on the left side, that is our machine. We need complete path. That's why we are putting $pwd in source, and whatever inside the docker container. Now let's run this command again, and now you see here this container docker ps. Docker ps is your friend. You'll run it multiple of times. So this container is running. If I go to browser, refresh it, sure enough we see this link updated. Now let's go and change this app.js file, and maybe let's instead of this, let's say hello YouTube, right? And now if I refresh, so you can see that it got updated. And now this is how we want to update things. It should do hot reload as well. So if I remove this, did I save? Save. Hot reload is not working. So there was some problem with hot reloading. There is a flag, env variable chokidar and window use polling that we need to use. On Mac machines, it should usually automatically work, right? We don't need anything else. It actually creates problem with Windows machines. But for some reason, I am unable to figure this out yet, right? So I'll be honest. So I'm not the person who will just brag something, right? So I'll be honest here. So I tried to figure it out yesterday, and it was not working. So this maybe in the next stream, next part, I'll try to figure out and I'll share that. So hot reload by default it should work, but somehow for now it's not working. So if I do hello world and save it, refresh it. Now this is the workflow we want, right? So whenever we want to change anything, we just change things in our source code. Things gets reflected in the browser, and all this stuff we can do, like all this debug, putting debug points and refreshing that. So all these things we can easily do that. Now there is one problem, right? There is one problem. So if I go inside, let's do docker exec, right, and go inside the container. And if I go and go inside the source directory, let's okay, let me bring it back like this. If I do ls, right, ls hyphen -la, right, you can see we have this much files, right? And now if I go to the this terminal and and I don't have Vim here, right? So that's why I cannot update any file. So but I'll demonstrate it in a different way. Let's create one file. Let's name it react only. And now if I do ls hyphen -la, this react file is there. But if I go here, and you can see here we don't have this file. If I do ls hyphen -la, you can see okay, somehow that polling is not working. I did all this stuff actually yesterday. Okay, this polling is not working, but it's okay. Let me put this. With this, yes. Why it's opening right up? Let's open terminal. Let's go to open source. Let's go to docker Gaikwad and increase the size a little bit, right? And make it full screen. So actually the problem here is whenever we change things inside the Docker container, right, or update anything, it actually changes our source code outside of this containers, right? So that is the problem here. And sometimes you might not want this to happen, right? So for that reason, what you can do is you can run the same command, but just put to run command here, right? Rotate, go backward, and here let's put RO, right? So what happens is this Docker source folder will be only read only, right? RO is read only, right? And that way this Docker container will not have any unwanted changes stored there inside the container, and that will be reflecting in your source code. So this is also one small little thing which we can use. Right now, this is that. So we can change things. We can do the development, and it should hot reload as well. And it works. It might not. It might work for you without doing anything, but for some reason it's not working for me. Yep. So this is also done. Uh, Now, what if we want to access any env variables, right? Obviously, there will be some env variables which we will be using in our uh, environment, right? And so for that, let's go to Docker file, right? And let's create an env variable, env, let's call it react underscore name. And this is the thing with React. So if we want to access any environment variable other than node env, you need to prepend it with React hyphen app, like app underscore, like that. Instead of hyphen, it should be underscore, right? React underscore app underscore, and then after that you need to add all this stuff. So if we add this env variable here, and obviously we have to rebuild this Docker image. So let's do Docker build command. It will rebuild this image, and this time uh, it adds this env variable, right? And okay, sorry, I have to use that add first, and then I have to do it. So let's do one thing. To access it, the node envs into node environment is this way. Yeah, store app underscore name, right? Let's put it inside this. Like this, right? Type form as well. So it will be unique, and we'll understand what is going on. And now, if I do Docker build command, right, so it will build with that env variable which has the default value, right? And then if I do run command like this, it says conflict with React name already there. Okay, so let's remove this Docker React app. Let's do it forcefully. Let's do Docker build just to be sure things are good. And then we'll do Docker run. And now if I go browser, if I refresh, you see here we have hello from React app. So it actually picked this env variable from that unbuilt image. And now how we can override it? So let's remove this React quickly, React app container. And if I do Docker yes output A, nothing is there, which is good. Now while running this command, we can even pass another flag that is -e, which stands for environment. And here we can just pass react underscore app underscore name, and which will be, let's say, terminal. I don't know why I chose that. Uh, what happened? Cancel. Right? What happened? let's do this, right? To get inside this. Edit mode. I should have searched it. And then a React underscore app underscore name, and let's call it app, right? And now if I run it, say this, what might it? I think I just forgot to add equal to mark there, like this. And now if I run it, it should run. Now if I refresh it, so you can see here it is showing terminal app, right? So this is how you learn, like how you can use this env variables while building the image, how we can override it, right? But this is obviously in any application, right? You can see that it is not a good idea to remember all this stuff, right? And most of the times we will be using .env file for the envs, right? And we'll not be adding it in the command like this. So let's go and add .env file, and here itself we'll add a react app underscore name, and let's call it file app, right? And then this time if I do run, right, this time if I do run, instead of passing hyphen e flag, we'll pass hyphen hyphen env hyphen file, and just pass the path of the env file, right, this way. So if I do enter now, okay, I have to remove this container. Now you can imagine, right, we have to swap that container, remove that image. It's easy to do that. And let's go enter. Now this is running, and this time it should pick it from env file. See here, it actually picked it from the env file, and this is how you can pass the env variables inside this Docker containers. Now, obviously, this is all what you need to do. I think this is all which is needed to create these containers, right? We're already 1 hour. Okay. Let me complete this Docker Compose thing. This tool, it is very cool. And then after that, we'll push it for the next episode. Push things to the next episode. Yeah. So now, obviously, you can see here this command is getting bigger and bigger with the things, right? And which is not easy to remember. And why should we remember, right? So, and it is a little bit hectic to type all these things again and again. So for this reason, we have this tool called Docker-Compose, right? This Docker-Compose tool, what it does is it actually previously I was thinking always that Docker and Docker Compose are same, but this is not the thing actually. It is quite handy tool which we can use. So let's create quickly a file called docker-compose.yml. YML is for YAML file, right? And in YAML file, spacing really matters, right? So please be cautious about the spacing. It's really important here, right? For this Docker Compose, we need to specify a version which we want to use. In most of the cases, we can use the latest one, or you can just go on the Docker Hub, Docker website, and check which version is available. I think it's 3.8 and 9 is also available, but for now we go with the version 3. So you can see like what are the differences and versions are there. Mostly I have seen like version 3 is quite good for most of the projects. That's why I'm using that. Now for each container, right? So now because we are creating only one container for now, but imagine we have backend, we have some other services where we have database, right? We have caching layer where we are using Redis. There could be multiple things, right? And that command will get bigger and bigger, which is not good, right? And there should be a better way to document things and better way to build stuff, right? So that's when this Docker Compose comes into picture, right? So each container is called as a different service, right? So we'll create a services section, right? And then after that, I'll put one tab, right? Spacing matters here. Whenever I do tab, it is putting two spaces there. Now let's call we call this service, right, React, right? So we'll call it again. Whenever I put tab, so it is telling this Docker Compose that this service is a parent section. Inside this, we have this create app, that is a separate service. And inside this, if I put tab, so whatever is written here, that belongs to this React app, something like that, right? Now we need to give that build context, this application, right? So remember, wherever we are adding that dot at the end, whenever we are giving the Docker run command, right? So we'll do build colon dot, which is our context. But the simplest way to think about it is just a path where the Docker file resides. Then we map some ports, right? So let's add ports here. And whenever we want to update multiple things, right? We want to do multiple bindings, then we can list it with, I'll do tab again with this dash flag, and then after that I can do put anything which we want, and we can list out things. So we did previously 4000, which is our machine port, and we bind it to the 3000 port, which is inside this Docker environment. Now we need volumes as well, right? Volumes, spelling is correct. Then the same list concept. Then we have this source directory. And cool little thing here is here we can use this dot slash. So we can use this relative path here, which is also a good point of this Docker. And then it should go inside this code slash src folder, right? And then we need some environments, right? And then create an environment called variable called react name, and let's do compose app, so that it will be much more clear. And what if you have few environment variables, you can do it this way. But what if you have multiple, right? So in that case, you can just pass env underscore file, and inside here as a list again, you can just specify the path of this env file, right? And I'll just comment it now, so we don't need it because we are anyways we want to demonstrate this composer, right? So we'll not use this env file. And now that's it. So let me explain or show you quickly again Docker Compose file. So we have version 3, we have services, then we created the service called React app, we gave it a context, build dot, then we bind the port 4000 of our machine to 3000 port inside the container. Then we have volumes, we are mounting this or binding these volumes, this current source directory to the source directory inside this Docker environment. And then we are just creating some env variables with compose. And now, since all this stuff is already in a file, all this configuration inside the file, the benefit here is we can just version control it, and we can share it with people, right? So this is good. Now let's check docker ps quickly. So container is running. Let's remove docker app hyphen app. This is really handy, so I always use that, and that's why I wanted to show them. So this is that. If I do docker ps hyphen a, we don't have anything here. Now let's run docker hyphen compose. Okay, now remember one thing. One project is run under the container. Okay, so I believe the question here is, okay, actually, I believe that question is, can we run the one project inside one container, or one project in multiple containers? The thing is, the idea here is, the containers should have one specific service, right? And not one specific service, but multiple services connecting to each other, and that connected container creates a network, right? And that network will be isolated for that container itself, right? So the idea is, this one project or this one container, like for example, let's say one container is able to have handle 300 requests. Okay, 300 requests. And now let's imagine 301st request comes, right? So what happens is, when we do horizontal scaling, it will create the same environments. It will copy that same container. It will spawn, and that next request will come to this new container, right? So basically, one project and multiple containers, right? That way we can do horizontal scaling. I'll explain that part as well later, coming up. Don't worry about that. So this is Docker Compose. Be sure this is different, right? So if you don't put any hyphen there, so this is different. This actually also a command, which we are not going to use right now, because I don't think so it's useful. But Docker Compose, which we are going to use. And if I put help here, we'll see what are all commands available for us. Now, if I do docker compose up, this up command will run this container, right? And it will try to find this docker compose file inside this directory, current directory, and we obviously have it, right? Remember, we use that hyphen D. Hyphen D puts things inside into a detached mode, so everything will go in a detached mode in a background, right? If I run it, sometimes you have to add a build flag as well, so it will create the new image out of it. But since we are doing it for the first time, right, so it will anyways create the image, right? So if I click enter, not environment, what happened? Let's go to docker compose. Oh, sorry. It should be environment, actually, not environments. Let's save it, right? And then do docker compose -d. So now you see here in the output, it's creating a network. It uses, I'll explain everything. So it uses the current directory name, and then puts some, in this case, underscore default, right? And it creates this network. Inside this network, all the services inside this container will connect to each other, and it may connect and share some information, right? And because we are only using one container, one service right now, so I can't really demonstrate that, but yeah, it's that. So now you can see this is created. Now if I do docker, okay, docker compose docker ps, if I do, so you can here you can see that this image is created with this name, and this is the container name, right? It is again porting to 4000. So let's try to check everything. If I refresh, it is coming from compose file, right? So I'll show you this docker compose here. Here you can see it is coming from compose file. Now let's try to edit this app.js, and let's put hello from, instead of hello from, let's put hello only, and let's do git add all, and let's refresh it. So you can see here it is already updating to hello, right? It already updated to hello. So that means this way, let's remove that hello as well, right? And we do refresh here, so you can see that things are updated automatically, which is cool, right? And now we don't have to remember anything here. The cool part here is we don't have to remember any configuration. We have documented everything. We have documented everything inside our Docker compose file, right? And that we can actually share it with multiple people. And actually, I planned this stream to for like 1 hour, but I think it is getting too long. So what we will do is we'll continue this stream in the evening, right? The second part, where we are going to create some multi-stage build, right? We'll create a separate Docker file, Docker compose file for production, for development. What are all services required? What are all tips required there? We probably are going to use Nginx there, which serves the static files quite fastly. So all this stuff we'll check in the next stream, right? So since we are the only, like before wrapping, the only thing here is this container is running, right? So now to stop this container, we can simply do docker compose down command, and it will just stop all this network. And if I do docker ps again, nothing is there. Docker ps -a, nothing is there. And in my mind, this is much more easy, and this is much more simple. Right? So Docker, no issues about the time, so we have, yeah, hi, science world. Yeah, actually I actually planned it for I wanted to explain things better, right? I don't want to rush things. That's why I try to explain each bit as clearly as possible with some tips and tricks, which I personally use, right? And yeah, so maybe in the evening we'll have this stream continuing, where we will show or demonstrate how we can go forward from this point, right? So yeah, so I was talking about this, right? So this is much more simpler in my mind. So now with this I can just do docker compose up and -d, and then do this thing is good. And actually this command is actually used for any project where we are using this docker, right? So it's always good to create alias for it. So before leaving, I'll just show you a quick tip. So what you can do is, let's do dcu, so docker compose up, right? And in most of the cases, I want it to be in background only. So I'll put -d down here. So if I do it like this, so if I check dcu, what it means is this, and I'll create another tag dcd, which will do docker compose down, right? Something like this. And if I now do dcd and enter, this container is stopping. If I do dcu and enter, and this container is running, right? I'm big fan of simplicity. I don't want to complicate things. I have a lot of things going on in my workflow, uh, and hopefully wherever I think that it is useful to share, I'll share. So this way, actually, these commands you can use for any Docker project, and it will be really useful. You just need to put it in your G shell or Bash profile or Bash RC file, and you're good to go. I can show you before leaving. I think it's irrelevant. Not sure if I show it, if I should show it or not. This is how I have my aliases set up. So when I do git add, git push, PSP, Laravel, some directives like you saw me, like I type OO, so it goes here, all this stuff. I always use nvim and vim, so this is how it is there. And if I want to access, there are some dynamic programs which actually takes some environment variables from the .env files and then connects to the my uh, table plus. So I think with this, please practice this, right? Everything I have shown you right now until this point, everything I have curated, each and everything I have put everything on the sequence on purpose to demonstrate how things are in your day-to-day life when we deal with the Docker projects. So please practice everything. Every command is useful. Please try to check that. And I hope you find it helpful. And in the next thing, in the evening, we'll continue with this part where we will discuss how we can have separate Docker Compose file for development environment, separate environment file for production environment, how we can do multi-stage build. Multi-stage build is really cool concept that I want to explain properly. Actually, last night this is okay. If you want to drop, you can drop here, right? I'm dropping something which is unrelated to this Docker. So last night I was trying to crash everything inside 1 hour, and I couldn't do that. I want to explain properly, so that's why I thought that I'll split this stream into two parts, and hopefully in the next stream we'll learn how to use this different Docker files and Docker Compose files for different environments. Yeah. So happy Independence Day to all my Indian friends in advance, and see you in the next one. Thank you for joining. Bye bye.